No, I'm curious. Because it kind of leads us into the first discussion because we've been having a conversation about crime in the city of Houston, because it has dropped not as fast as people would have liked, but it has started to go down. And so our elected officials are upset that they're not getting as much credit for crime going down, as they got as in terms of blame when crime was high during the pandemic and post-pandemic. And so just kind of curious your guys' thoughts about that. And what's crime like in Austin? Like, where are you guys at right now? Because I know things can't be great. Or are they?
I mean, it depends on who you ask, right? I don't know. I mean, the elected officials are upset because they're not getting credit for something that they don't deserve credit for. I mean, I don't know what crime goes up during the pandemic, for a lot of reasons. I think one of them certainly is that people are locked in their homes. They don't have anything else to do. And when young men have nothing else to do, well, they get a little antsy and they do stupid things. Right. So I think they have a direct, there's a direct connection there for why they deserve. And they shit all over police, and they say that the media and the elected officials always, they blame the police for everything, and the DAs and the criminals know they're not going to get prosecuted. And so if things are changing now, oh, well, you let us go back to work? Thanks, guys. You're fucking awesome. Like, what do you want for that? You don't get credit for that. And I question whether crime is how much it's going down. It's something like murders, or where you can't really hide those numbers. That's, fair. But more general crime, petty crime, I don't know, theft, stuff like that. Is it because it's not being reported? Is it because prosecutions aren't happening? The police can't, there's not enough police in Austin to, go after those people. And so they're, I don't know. Is it going down?
Well, I know here people aren't reporting things like car break-ins and stuff simply because the response time and the fact that they're not going to find the person anyway. So what's the point in doing that? So yeah, but I think the ones like murders and shootings are a little harder. But you're right, property crimes and it's particularly like car break-ins, smash and grab, stuff like that. I think people aren't reporting as much as they used to.
Yeah, they want the credit when it's going down, but they don't want the credit when it's going up.
Yeah, pretty much. Do you guys want to see the video?
Yeah.
We have a video?
And they highlighted the numbers almost every single day. Almost every single day. And that's what people were getting on television, in newspapers, because people were highlighting the numbers. It is unfortunate that when the numbers are trending in the right direction, people don't highlight what's happening in those trends. Based on what you presented, you're talking about 63 fewer homicides in comparison to 2022. When you look at the 2021 numbers in homicide, 94 fewer homicides than in 2021. Now, I want that to sink in. 94 fewer homicides than in 2021. 63 fewer homicides than in 2022. And 22 was better than 21. And 23 is better than 22 and substantially better than 21. 17% fewer shootings taking place in the city of Houston. That's significant.
So that's Mayor Sylvester Turner, the mayor of Houston.
Okay. Yeah. I had a hard time. He kept going back and forth in time and saying the numbers. It was kind of hard to follow, but
that's often how he speaks.
What was the number? So he was using 2021 as the high watermark, right? Did I understand that correctly?
In this clip, he was, yes. I mean, sometimes he uses 2018, sometimes 2019, this time 2021. So yes.
I wonder why no one gives him credit. So what was the number in 2021? I mean, what is the number today? I mean, if you go from 1,000 to 920, all right, cool. I guess that's an improvement, but you still have almost 1,000 murders. I don't think Houston's like that, but what is it? Do you know?
Right. And no, I don't have the total number. I will say though, that I think, you can drop 61, 63, 65, whatever. It still matters for each one of those. And I wouldn't be, as the mayor of a city of 2.3 million, waving the flag of victory because we were able to drop down that few. So yeah, so I don't know. I mean, we'll see if it keeps trending that way. I think it probably will. I mean, they have been making some good changes in terms of, prosecutions and getting backlogs taken care of and stuff like that. But seems like a little bit of an early victory, a little bit of an early celebration, in my opinion, to be waving the flag of victory.
Yeah.
2021, Houston experienced an increase in homicides, with police responding to 469 deaths of that nature in the city over 12 months. And then he said it went down, 90 or something like that from
It's currently down. Right. Yeah. 93, right. I think 91, 93.
You have almost 400 murders in Houston. I mean, what do you want, Sylvester Sterner? Like, that's not good.
He wants credit. That's what he wants.
So what did he do that is responsible for the drop in crime? Because here in Austin, we have a very similar discussion. We had the same trends after COVID of murders and homicides going up. And I think there's a much more adversarial relationship between our city council and the police department. And the police are saying, the reason crime is up is because we don't have enough cops and we have bad morale because you guys are so mean to us. Do you have similar dynamics there in Houston? What did they actually do? What were the actions taken by the city council that he wants credit for the drop in crime?
Yeah, I mean, we do.
A lot of it could be really just factors beyond the control of policymakers in city halls, right?
Well, and I agree, because when you look at any major city, you're seeing these kind of decreases post-pandemic, just like you saw the increases during the pandemic. But I mean, what he points to is this program he created called One Safe Houston. They probably should have picked a different name, because critics changed it quickly to Once Safe Houston and started calling it that. But the program kind of centers on all these new initiatives, some of them including gun buybacks, despite all the evidence pointing the gun buybacks not actually doing anything, and kind of redirecting police to high crime zip codes. Some of the other stuff that is out of city council's control, which I think contributed it to a lot more, was kind of decreasing the backlog in the criminal courts, in our criminal justice system, the work that the DA has been doing. So I think they're taking credit for a lot of stuff, or attempting to take credit for a lot of stuff, but I think it's the whole criminal justice system as a whole. But also I think it's just the factors that are outside of anyone's control, because like you said, it's happening in Austin, it's happening in New York, it's happening in LA, Chicago. Like, you're seeing it in a lot of major metro areas where post-pandemic crime is going down. People are back to work and doing things other than, stealing and killing people.
I wish I knew we were going to talk about gun buybacks, because it always reminds me, there's people that will build they'll do homemade materials, Home Depot stuff, like a pipe and some wood or whatever, and make a working gun for $5-10 and then sell it back for hundreds of dollars. And I have this article pulled up, but it doesn't really help, because I'm not the producer here, Charles. Let me know that stuff is coming up.
He's bitter. So we have similar numbers in Austin. We have 88 was the high in 2021. 2022 it went down to 71. And then as of October 16th, according to KXAN, 54 homicides this year. So we may eclipse that. But our city council hasn't done anything. What they haven't, the things you mentioned, they haven't done anything. The anti-police lobby here in city council is very powerful, and they didn't approve the contract that they brought forward. The last budget had no increase in sworn officers. The police would say we're 400 short or something like that. So we haven't done anything. We've seen a similar drop trend.
When APD, and the police, people say this all the time, conservatives all over the place say this all the time, you need more police to fight crime or whatever. And when we were going through, what was it, I can't remember which prop it was, Prop A, setting the sworn officers have to be at between 2 and 2.2 officers per 1,000 residents in Austin. And I just looked at all the numbers, not all of them, but looked at a lot of numbers around the country. Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Chicago all have way more than that ratio, and way more crime. I don't think that there's got to be a sweet spot, and it doesn't seem like Austin is at it. Obviously, if we had 0 police officers, it would be, crime would definitely be worse. but is it going to get better if we have 10 or 5, or is 2 the right number? I don't know. But it's not just magically, all right, you have, I think in Baltimore, it's like more than 6 police officers per 1,000. Well, okay, the crime is worse. So what happened?
Well, what I suggested that crowd back in the day was don't tie it to an arbitrary number of police officers, tie it to crime. Say you need to increase officers until crime rates go down. Shouldn't that be the metric? I mean, what is the role of a criminal justice system if it's not to prevent crime? So shouldn't that be the metric rather than some, number of officers per 1,000 people in the population?
Well, that would be, that sounds like it would make sense. But then I think their argument would be, well, if we start getting rid of police officers, well, one, they're out of a job and that we lose votes if we do that. But also the crime will go back up. So we got to keep them.
Then
right?
Increase the staff. If the trend goes up, increase the staffing.
Just keep hiring and firing police officers.
But the revolving door.
Yeah, the broader issue here is, for me at least, as Charles started to talk about, is just the broader criminal justice system. I don't think that there's a very good answer about what is the role of police in the community supposed to be. And we're struggling with this broken trust, which is justified for a lot of reasons. And we're struggling with it, and we're at a stalemate. We can't make any progress on criminal justice reform, police issues, police reform, like cops getting a contract. Everybody's losing in the situation. And it's because, and in my view, on a very high level, it's because we haven't agreed or come to some sort of idea about what is the role of police in our community.
Well, I don't know if that's when you say there's broken trust, though, there could be a myriad of reasons why someone has broken trust with the police department or with police in general. On one side, or criminal justice or whatever you want to call it. On the one side, conservatives in Austin and all over the place with the Soros DAs, they have broken trust in that side of criminal justice, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have activists, anti-police activists, abolitionists, or of different varying degrees. They have broken trust for a totally different reason. And then someone else, a reason that I'm not thinking of, has broken trust for it. I think that for that to progress forward, we need to sort of figure out, okay, what is the broken trust? Why? And let's fix that. Right?
I would think so. I mean, I think it's a great start. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that's for sure. There's broken trust everywhere. I think that George, in a similar way that Trump broke the left's brain on this issue in particular, the response to George Floyd's killing broke the right's brain, and they reflexively went back to their formerly 1980s. We have to do everything that the police say they want without question, and we have to defend them at all costs. And that's before George Floyd. I mean, at the federal level, I know we're talking locally, but at the federal level, there was a bipartisan First Step Act which acknowledged some of the issues with the criminal justice system that had broken trust, at least between the police in the community or the justice system in the community. And there was actually progress towards addressing that trust, at least on one side. And then I would say, who bears the responsibility of initiating the trust rebuilding? Is it people in the community, or is it the police departments and unions themselves? Because they are agents of us, the taxpayers. So I think that a larger part of the responsibility lays on them to step up and start to rebuild that trust that has been broken.
Yeah, that's my opinion too. I mean, I think to your point though, it wasn't just the federal level, like even at the state level, we were Sandra Bland Act, they were talking about civil asset forfeiture. They were talking about kind of what new policing looked like. There was a lot of good conversations coming out of the state legislature that after George Floyd, they were like, we're not touching anything. Like, we're not even having a conversation. We just need more jails and more courts. so yeah, it's frustrating. I think it did break the rights brand. Even so, we have an amendment, a charter amendment on this November's ballot to give city council members the authority to place an item on the weekly agenda because they can't do that. And I get conservatives telling me like we shouldn't do that because then the liberals will defund the police. And I'm like, well, so we shouldn't have council members who can represent their neighborhoods because somebody might put on the agenda that they want to defund the police and then somehow still have to convince 16 council members to vote. Like, it's kind of crazy. But I agree. I think it's incumbent upon the police. Like, I think it's like a 75-25 split. Like, the community does have to do some work, but the police are the ones with the authority here. I mean, they are given the authority over you and given a lot of leeway to do things in and around communities and to the general public. And so I think it's kind of incumbent upon them to initiate that and push it forward. And then, the community has to be open to it and open to engaging with them, which I think there's still some reluctance to. But I think it's definitely a bulk of that responsibility goes on the government, for lack of the institution, if you will.
Yeah. The Ron DeSantis, the second leading Republican candidate for president, if such one exists, said that he was going to repeal the First Step Act.
Which is crazy.
What are you talking about? That let people I tweeted the other day, my friend Alice Johnson, like her story is so inspiring. It's such a, it was such a travesty what was done to her. Yeah, she made a mistake for sure, but we've all already acknowledged the drug war was overly punitive and put people like Alice Johnson in jail for life. And he wants to repeal the First Step Act that gives people a pathway to rehabilitation. Like, why? And he's just going to say, we're letting criminals out. Like, is Alice Johnson a criminal, or is she somebody that made a mistake and got a life sentence for it? And that we created pathways for people who have proven record of rehabilitation and got, unfair sentences to get out of prison a little bit early. Like, that seems like a good thing, conservative or liberal. Like, I always viewed that as a good thing, but now we're going back to, you're just letting criminals out of jail. Really? Really? That's what we're going to say?
Unfortunately, yes. You're just open to the jailhouse doors. That's what they keep saying. I was like, this is ridiculous. Absolutely.
Alice Johnson, the great grandma, is such a public safety threat. And there's thousands of people just like her that were released because of the First Step Act, a program called Compassionate Release, where if you're like in your 80s and you want to spend your last, you were a part of a drug conspiracy and you want to spend your last days with your family, like we'll give you a chance if you've proven yourself to be rehabilitated. That's common sense to me.
I mean, I feel like that's the plot of a movie almost. Like, you get out of jail when you're 80, you were part of a drug ring in your 30s or whatever, and you just go back, you meet the old boys, and you just do one last hit.
That probably happens too.
I'm sure it does. And so, Ron DeSantis, he's on to something, right? No, of course not. That doesn't sound good. We got a couple big crime stories going on here. I mean, I guess it's locally, but it's also state. And I'm told that the whole country is paying attention to this. But do we want to talk about the Mike Ramos and I don't know. Yeah. I don't know about the one in Houston. I apologize. I don't know.
No, that's okay. Yeah, we can watch that real quick. Let's do it.
Was killed in the parking lot of a Southeast Austin 911 caller said that two people were in a car doing drugs and producing meth. They also indicated that one person, presumably Ramos, had a gun on them. Cell phone video shows Ramos saying that he does not have a gun on him, lifting his shirt to show that and walking in a circle. That officer shot Ramos with less than lethal rounds while his hands were still in the air. At that point, Ramos jumps into his vehicle and tries to drive away. Officer Taylor opens fire, hitting Ramos in the back of the head, killing him. This is the first of two murder charges for Taylor. Taylor and another officer were indicted for murder in connection to the July 2019 shooting death of Dr. Maurice Da Silva.
Tonight, with a former Houston police officer indicted for felony assault.
Dramatic body camera video now causing a former Houston police officer to be indicted for assault. HPD officer Lucas Vieira has been indicted by Harris County grand jury for felony aggravated assault by a public servant. Howard, already handcuffed, claims he was hit on the head by police.
An unarmed, handcuffed person, why are you bashing him on the head?
So far, it's unclear if any other officers from this case could face charges.
I mean, the other than the Fox 7 news reporter being kind of cute, I don't understand that the Houston case seems open and shut. He's handcuffed and you're bashing him on the head, like curb stomping him, obviously on the side of the highway. That doesn't make any sense. Maybe I don't know what the officer side of the story is, but it seems like he's going to have a pretty amazing story for that to, pan out in his favor. But in the Ramos case, should he have been shot? No, but he got in the paradigm that we live in, he got into his car and started to drive away. I think in the 911 call, the whoever called said that he was holding a gun to the girl's head in the car or whatever. So the cops thought he might have a gun in the car. He lifts up his shirt, see no gun. All right, well, I'm going to get in my car now. Maybe there's a gun there. I'm not saying that he deserved to die. Certainly not. Maybe shoot his tires out. Maybe, I don't know. But murder seems like a pretty big charge in that case.
Yeah. I mean, it does seem like it, especially I give it to you too, because right, he gets in the car, you don't know what's going to happen after that. That cop did have that was his second killing in 5 months. The first one was for a doctor that was having a mental health crisis and had a knife to his own neck, and kind of took a step towards the officers, and then they shot him and killed him. So that officer had killed 2 people in 5 months. So I'm guessing that's why they're trying to come down hard on him. The one in Houston, it's interesting because the DA brought charges. They convened a grand jury. This case got to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. And the reason that it became a story was because last week, the statute of limitations ran out on it, and the DA didn't bring the charges to the Court of Criminal Appeals until 2 days after the statute of limitations ran out. And so the Court of Criminal Appeals dismissed it. Now this officer is appealing to the oversight board to get his job back because there are no criminal charges pending against him anymore. And so it's kind of crazy to me, just because in that situation, had that been a regular person who was like let out in the DA and had killed somebody or even beat or assaulted somebody, and the DA failed to bring charges in a reasonable time, people would be like ripping the DA apart. But somehow you fail to bring charges until 2 days after the statute of limitations runs out on this cop. And it's just like radio silent here. It was in a couple of news articles, but it has since not really gone anywhere. So it's interesting. With both of those, I think a part of the conversation that what I'm concerned about is that with conservatives, when it comes to policing and police and holding police accountable, there's very often a silence when it comes to that issue. They don't really speak out against that because somehow we find everything that they do justified. But there should be a conversation about some of that stuff, especially the one in Houston, because I think it's kind of crazy that he might not get his job back just because charges weren't brought in a reasonable time.
Yeah. I mean, I think we should move on. I think we could devote a whole podcast to this issue, and maybe have on a special guest. The reality is, huh?
You think we'll have a second podcast, or is this going to be our first and last?
TBD.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's move on.
Yeah, I think they're just real quick. I think there needs to be there has to be some accountability. These individual cases are always so difficult to render judgment, just because we're not in the situation and we don't know what happened fully. But there's got to be some accountability for bad actors.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.